You thought the government knew what was happening with these drones over New Jersey? There were some by Bedminster.
I don't know, they're over Bedminster a lot. So
What happened?
I'm going to give you a report on drones about one day into the administration, because I think it's ridiculous that they're not telling you about what's going on with the drones. And it's not only with me. Glenn was telling me today that in Virginia they have drones all over the place doing, nobody's reporting it. I don't know why they're not. Do you want to say something about that?
Just one quick comment, which is we are home to the largest naval base in the world in Quantico, and we house a lot of the SEAL teams and have a huge national security infrastructure. And now for 2 years running, we have had drone incursion over secure airspace, and we still don't know why. And I think that's absolutely unacceptable. And I think President Trump and the new leadership coming in, I think, will work diligently to understand who's behind this and what we do in order to stop the digital surveillance of all of our security.
Is it dangerous?
Over secure airspace.
Why can't they do
And
this?
we still don't
Well,
know why.
we've been dealing with terrorists attacking
I think that's absolutely unacceptable. I think President Trump and the new leadership coming in, I think
we
will
brought
work
that attention to the
diligently to
FAA. We've been
understand.
asking the FAA to give these states the ability to mitigate these drones, and it's sitting on some bureaucrat's desk. And that's real.
Nobody knows. They don't want to talk about it. Go ahead, Governor. You were going to say?
I was just going to say we have drones in Wyoming flying over our infrastructure as well. And it's incredibly frustrating that we not only have no way of knowing what it is, but nobody knows how to deal with them.
They don't want to talk about it, and nobody knows why. They don't want to talk about it. That could be us sending drones. I hope that's the case, us doing it and doing research, and maybe they don't want to talk about it from that standpoint. I hope it's not an enemy, but we're going to find out on the 21st, the day after. You have to give me a little time for the inauguration, but shortly thereafter we'll give you a report on it. We'll tell you exactly what it is. They know, and it's very strange that they aren't talking about it. Peter, thank you very much. Does Biden do, does he do this kind of a news conference?
This is my longest ever interview of a president.
Yeah, well, the longest ever before this was one
That
question.
changed games.
And then we rush you out of the room. Right? we have nothing to hide. Thank you all very much.
Just saying. That changed games up in them Black Ops.
There is a tradition in this country, in fact, one of the prides of this country is the peaceful transition of power. Do you make the same commitment? Do you absolutely accept the result of this election?
I will tell you at the time. I'll keep you in suspense.
For the first time in modern presidential history, a candidate in a national debate challenges the peaceful transfer of power, a pillar of democracy that sustained for more than 200 years.
So help me God.
Through crisis,
The president is dead.
scandal,
What's the matter with these clowns?
peace, and war. What does it take to hand off the most powerful office in the world? This is the secret history of the transition of power.
I do solemnly swear.
Faithfully execute the office of President of the United States.
Preserve, protect, and defend.
So help me God.
The United States created the very notion of
January 6th pardons, President Trump says there's a process. Where is the line drawn on who will and wouldn't be considered for a pardon?
If you committed violence on that day, obviously you shouldn't be pardoned. He's good at making deals, and I think there's a deal to be made in Greenland. And the real truth is that Joe Biden has left us a dumpster fire. Donald Trump is going to have to put it out, but he's good at doing that.
In this video today, JD Vance makes a major announcement about pardoning the January 6 individuals. Also, Trump rips into Jack Smith, who resigned as special counsel. These stories and more in this video today, but let's start with what JD Vance had to say.
January 6th pardons, President Trump says there's a process. Where is the line drawn on who will and wouldn't be considered for a pardon?
I think it's very simple. Look, if you protested peacefully on January the 6th and you've had Merrick Garland's Department of Justice treat you like a gang member, you should be pardoned. If you committed violence on that day, obviously you shouldn't be pardoned. And there's a little bit of a gray area there, but we're very much committed to seeing the equal administration of law. And there are a lot of people, we think, in the wake of January the 6th who were prosecuted unfairly. We need to rectify that.
So that particular statement led to some backlash from MAGA on X, starting with the Hodge twins, who said this. Video gets released of cops shooting innocent J6 protesters, and JD Vance goes on Fox News and tells the world that only non-violent protesters should get pardoned. Better rethink what you just said, JD. So JD Vance responded by saying this. First of all, I donated to the J6 Political Prisoner Fund and got roasted for it during my Senate race. I've been defending these guys for years. Second, there were federal informants in the crowd. Do they get a pardon? I don't think so. The president saying he'll look at each case and me saying the same thing is not some walkback. I assure you, we care about people unjustly locked up. Yes, that includes people provoked, and it includes people who got a garbage trial. Now, in the comments, I mean, there's everybody disagreeing with me. And it's the same point that everybody is making, which is anybody that was convicted based on day 6, there is a clear conflict of interest within those convictions. They're all politically motivated. None of it was actually a fair trial. You got people who didn't do anything. They weren't even there. They got 10, 15, in some cases, 20 years to prison. Just think about that for a second. I'd understand if someone woke up in the morning, purposely went down to the Capitol and assaulted a police officer because they really wanted to. I'd understand 20 years. But even in that case, I still don't think 20 years is warranted. However, I digress. You got people locked up for doing nothing, okay? And so Hodgson was really just ticked off about this because they fired back even at that comment by saying, you're defending innocent J6ers when you go on Fox News and tell the world that only nonviolent people should be pardoned when you know there are innocent people in prison right now because the feds lied and said they were violent. Why not go in there and tell the world that y'all plan on freeing all the political prisoners because lives are at stake here? No one wants federal informants pardoned. We only want innocent political prisoners pardoned. I think, obviously, JD Vance knows that. I just think people really took his comments out of context, and JD Vance is a person who's like, here's the bottom line, right? And in this situation, you can't necessarily give someone the bottom line because there's a lot of context and nuance, because there's a lot of people that were locked up for J6, and there's a lot of people who were not, who technically were part of the FBI, but they don't want to talk about that either. Now, Matt Gaetz actually stood up for JD Vance and said this: JD has been a true fighter for those who have been denied justice. And then Hodge twins actually issued a warning, said MAGA going to turn on JD Vance faster than we turned on Mike Pence if they only pardon some J6ers. And Julie Kelly wrote this: the only metric that needs to be discussed related to pardons is DOJ's 100% conviction rate before DC juries after nearly 3 years of jury trials. After 150 or so trials, not a single J6er has walked out of DC jury trial fully exonerated. Compare that to the 50% conviction rate for government in Whitmer Fednapping hoax. And so I'm going to actually react to this here shortly. But that's what she had to say. And then Jason Whitlock said this, which I was surprised to see him comment on this. He says, I love the fact it's been normalized for our politicians to respond directly and publicly to their supporters or critics in this process. All J6 political prisoners should be released on January 21st. They have suffered more than enough. So as you guys can tell, this is going to be an issue that definitely are going to have some strong opinions about. But from a common sense point of view, here is my overall take, okay? 100% of people who participated in January 6th, whether they were violent or not violent, whether they were there or not there, but they all ended up being convicted and sent to prison. Every single case should be reviewed. The people who clearly did not do anything should not be in prison. We know that. Secondly, the people who did commit a violent act, why don't you just commute their sentences? Shorten it up. They already served time. Now, this next topic that he was discussing is in regards to immigration and the mass deportation. And he's already getting ahead of it. We know the media is going to use family separation as a term to create division on this topic and get people to rage against Trump and what his plan is for the next 4 years. And here's what he had to say about that.
Yeah, so this term is something you're going to hear a lot in the next couple of months, the next couple of years, Shannon. Family separation. I think it's important. That's a euphemism. That is a dishonest term to hide behind the fact that Joe Biden has not done border enforcement. If you say, for example, in the United States, we have a guy who's convicted of violent crime and has to go to prison, we want that guy to go to prison. But yes, it does mean that that guy is going to be separated from his family. That is the consequence of committing violence upon your fellow citizens. If you come into this country illegally, you need to go back home. You need to have basic law enforcement. And what the Democrats are going to do is they're going to hide behind this. They're going to say that this is all about compassion for families. It is not compassion to allow the drug cartels to traffic small children. It is not compassion to allow the worst people in the world to send minor children, some of them victims of sex trafficking, into our country. That is the real humanitarian crisis at the border. You're not going to exacerbate it through law enforcement. You're going to fix it through law enforcement, and that's what Donald Trump is going to do.
We know that is the playbook for Democrats, to tug on people's heartstrings and make it a emotional issue, an issue sometimes even based on race. I'm sure they will use that as well. But we can't forget the rule of law. We can't forget that security and safety must come first. But the way that the Democrats see safety and security is they want safety and security in the eyes of the actual criminals, the illegal aliens. They're not really concerned with safety and security for the actual American citizen who may be at risk. Now, moving on to the next question that she asked them, which was about Greenland, because everybody seems to be freaking out. Even she asked the question, are you guys going to use military force? I mean, the media, they can't help themselves. They hang on every single word that Trump is using. It's like they haven't learned that this guy is a master negotiator. He's going to speak a certain way to get a leverage. So when he has to actually sit down and have the conversation, he's already 10 moves ahead. But I guess people don't see it that way. Here's what J.D. Vance had to say.
What's the deal with Greenland and the Panama Canal? Are we using or considering use of military force in any of those situations?
No, we don't have to use military force, Shannon. The thing that people always ignore is we already have troops in Greenland. Greenland is really important for America's strategically. It has a lot of great natural resources. My friend Donald Trump Jr. was there a couple days ago, and you know what they told him? They want to be empowered to develop. The people of Greenland want to be empowered to develop the resources there. We also need to make sure that Greenland is properly cared for from an American security perspective. And frankly, the current leadership, the Danish government, has not done a good enough job of securing Greenland. I think there actually is a real opportunity here for us to take leadership to protect America's security, to ensure that those incredible natural resources are developed. And that's what Donald Trump is good at. He's good at making deals, and I think this deal will be making deals.
Okay, so let's hear from today's sponsor of this video. Winners don't make resolutions, they just start. Building momentum one step at a time. Shift your focus on staying sharp and living longer as you age. There are a few non-negotiables, which I know you would agree. That's where my friends Momentous comes in. Their supplements prioritize quality, which is why they are NSF certified, free of harmful additives, and tested for accuracy. Even the NFL teams trust Momentous. Because as we get older, essentials like protein and creatine become game changers for maintaining your energy, your muscle, and your focus. Momentum uses the purest form of creatine available in order to help you stay at your best. So go to livemomentous.com and use promo code GLORYDARKNESS for 20% off so you can stay sharp, strong, and continue to live with purpose. Now, in regards to Greenland, we've already talked about this plenty of times. From a geographical point of view, it's a great asset to be in control of. We know the citizens there, they don't want to be on the free market, we know that. And also, the Prime Minister of Greenland has already come out and said he's ready to talk to Trump. So there's something, right? And the second thing is the media wants to react more to what Trump says versus what he actually will do. I find that to be interesting as well. And then the final thing that he talked about that I found interesting as well, and you will too, is we know that Joe Biden, since the beginning of his term, has been going around saying that he is leaving Trump the best of right? J.D. Vance had a reaction to that as well.
I wish Joe Biden all the best, but the fact is he has left us a dumpster fire, not just at the border, but also with the economy. First of all, we know that prices are way too high for many Americans. We have to work every single day to stabilize prices for American families. But Shannon, everything that he's bragging about ignores the fact that he has added trillions and trillions of dollars to the federal debt during a time of peace. He has left us with bond yields, meaning how are we going to finance that debt? We have to sell Treasury bonds. And the Treasury bonds have gotten more expensive because of Joe Biden's policies. So you go issue after issue. Oil prices are now shooting through the roof in the final 2 months of Joe Biden's administration, in part because of decisions that Joe Biden has made over the last few weeks. He actually hasn't left the American people in good economic condition. That's why they made Donald J. Trump the president of the United States. So we've got a lot of work. I remain fundamentally, you know this, Shannon, I'll always be an optimist about our country, but I think that that optimism has to start with a bit of realism, and the real truth is that Joe Biden has left us a dumpster fire. Donald Trump is going to have to put it out, but he's good at doing that.
Now, since day one of this show, I've been saying time and time again, the economy has been great to people who were already rich, who had a lot of money in the stock market, even donors and leaders, people who are politically connected, where they definitely have been building wealth. It's been great for them. But if you were not in that position, you were living paycheck to paycheck, or you had to depend on a 9 to 5, it has been terrible for you. And that's why the Democrats lost the election, because they never wanted to acknowledge that. And they definitely don't want to tell the truth about that. So good on JD Vance for admitting that the reality is it has not been as good as they want you to believe, but it can be better. Now, this takes us to our next story here, where Special Counsel Jack Smith did resign. I'm already getting ahead of it. I believe he's looking for a pardon from Joe Biden. I would not be surprised if that takes place, because they all believe that Trump has an enemy list and that he's going to prosecute every single person and their mom. Okay. But Trump did have some comments about this announcement, so we'll get into it now. Fox News wrote this article. They said Trump says Jack Smith is a disgrace after special counsel resigned from DOJ. He left town empty-handed. And the actual post that originated from Truth Social said this: Dwayne Jack Smith was fired today by the DOJ. He is a disgrace to himself, his family, and his country. After spending over $100 million on rich Trump, he left town empty-handed. The resignation comes ahead of the release of Smith's report on a case related to Trump's role in the attack in the Capitol. A recent court filing revealed that Garland plans to release Trump takes office next week. This is them continuing to be petty and wanting to control the narrative wherever they can, keeping it in the eyes of spreading the truth and standing for justice, which we know that's all a bunch of bull. Quote, as I have made clear regarding every special counsel who has served since I took office, I am committed to making as much of these special counsel's report public as possible, consistent with legal requirements and department policy. Okay. This is what Merrick Garland wrote, which again, like I stated, is a bunch of bull. Now, there's a very important detail in all of this, is that Jack Smith has the ability to release his report in regards to what happened on January 6th. So that leads us to the question, what influence, impact, or damage will this do to President-elect Trump right before he takes office? I don't believe it's going to do anything, because the people have already decided. But the Democrats, they're dug in. They are doubling down. They're not going to stop. They're going to keep doing the same thing, because it's a habit for them at this point. Here is an...
You guys, please like and sub. Have a